Hey, what would worlds be without some technical difficulties? Rojo, when he signed up remotely, ended the podcast. But we're back here. Hopefully, we can put this on the homepage and that sort of stuff. I'll just sort of pick up the point, John. I'm pretty sure I was saying before we realized Robert stopped. As for Noah Lyles being authentic, yeah, some of it is forced. He's trying to promote the sport. Whereas Bolt, I think so much of that just came to him naturally. He wanted to promote. It was great to promote the sport, but he was just like the perfect role for this. It's like some politicians are really good at retail politics. They just sort of hobnob with people and whatnot, but others really have to work at it. So
yeah, Noah is working at it. He's admitted that. And I don't think all of it is inauthentic. I think some of it is authentic. Like, it's just he is hired he hired a documentary film crew to follow him around this year. Essentially, this NBC project, initially it was just going to be him and his agent Mark Wetmore, and they were the ones going to be producing this and covering the costs. And then NBC came in, and then he got other sponsors to come in. So now I think he's only fronting 15%, but he wanted to get his name out there because he knows one of the ways you build the sport of track and field is by getting these big name brand athletes. Obviously, he wants to win the 100 and the 200 and the 4x1 for himself, but he also knows, I do that, people are talking about me. They're comparing to me to the greats who have done it. They're wondering, he did it at the World Championships. Can he do it on the biggest stage at the Olympics? All of that stuff is making the sport more popular. So I applaud him for doing this stuff. And if it comes across as inauthentic to some people some of the time, I view that as the cost of doing business, because I think it's a lot better than if he was taking the, Sidney McLaughlin, the Vroni route, and he just shows up and delivers these amazing performances, but doesn't actually, try to move the sport forward in any way.
I'd love to know how much more she gets paid than him. But in terms of authentic, I thought he was trying too hard. But like when I talked to him yet last night, it was just pure coincidence this happened. Like everybody else was gone. I think it was me and like two other journalists. Like he just happened to come back by, and we're like, "Whoa, can we talk to you?" And he talked a decent amount of time. And I saw Noah like with his guard down. There was like no bullshit. He's like, I feel responsibility to the sport. Like I felt like what he was saying was very authentic. Sure, some of the stuff on social media, it's a job. It's his damn job to like try to promote the sport, try to stand out. Oh man, I would love to know like what he gets paid, as I just said, compared to the thing. Compared to Sydney.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? I mean, we did wrap up the Jakob section. Any final thoughts on anyone else in the 5K? I mean, one thing.
Well, I got one big person. Luis Grijalva. Fourth for the second straight year. I mean, this is a guy from Guatemala. He used to be just a cool story. He's a dreamer, DACA. So for people out in the United States, you come to the U.S. illegally. He came as a kid. It's really unfortunate, but if you're an undocumented immigrant, technically you're not allowed to like leave the country. You can't come back. So they've put in some provisions because it's sort of cruel and inhumane if you've lived your whole life essentially in America. But he has to get special permission from the State Department to leave. So Tokyo, it's like, look at this guy from Guatemala who's kind of snuck into the Olympics. Last year, wow, look at this guy who really kicked really well, timed it perfectly, got fourth. Kind of fluke. Was a fair assessment. This year,
fourth
is fourth, but John, but it's like a one-off.
It was unlikely, and yeah, you thought this is a guy who kicked down some people who were running for medals, and he was just kind of running for the best position possible.
Right, that's his A+ performance. Everyone else has an off day. Tonight, wow, like he was up there, as he said, like, well, then I thought I could get a medal. I ran like I wanted to get a medal. I was competing for a medal. He was disappointed, John. The race ended. We'd run down to the mix zone because the 800 is coming up. We're hoping some people will come through quick. He comes through almost right away. And it's interesting. It's because he's Guatemalan and not United States. Like, people generally just don't want to talk. Like, if you're from the U.S., you're going to get stopped more often. He came right through and we're like, hey, we're talking to Abdi Nur, his training partner. We're like, hey, Luis, please talk. And he just shook his head and kept walking. We're like, okay. And that makes the journalist mad, but whatever. And then to his credit, like Ray Flynn gets it, his agent. Like, we didn't even say anything, right? Did you reach out to Ray?
No, this happened last year as well. Luis, I think he was so hyped to get fourth, he also skipped the mix zone and then came back. So I don't know. But this time around, I understand why he walked away. Like, we're not blind to the fact that these people are human beings. He finished fourth when his goal all year was the medal. He missed out on a medal by what? Hundredths of a second. He was very close. You know, he got fourth. The time here, 13:12.50, 13:12.28 got the bronze medal. So he was 2/10 of a second away from getting the medal. And no one wanted to really talk to him in the live mix zone. So we're trying to get him like 4 minutes after the race has ended, trying to process this defeat that he's built his whole year around. I understand why someone might not want to talk in that instant. And I think sometimes in those cases, what you need is just like an area where they can kind of grab their stuff and just try to like process what just happened. And then 10 minutes later, they can come and talk to the media. I know it's not always the most practical thing, but what happened, he takes a little while to process it. And then he's like, all right, I'm ready to talk. And I come back. I totally get what I can sympathize with what he's going through in that moment. And I appreciate him coming back. I do want to talk about his race though, Weldon, because he looked like $1 million with 600 to go. He's right up there at the front. And I'm thinking, this guy looks fantastic. He's right in position to medal. He's right where I want to be if I were him. And like you said, at the bell, or right before the bell, he's like second place. But then he starts slipping back a little bit. And with 100 to go, he's in eighth. And then he kicks down 4 people and finishes fourth. But what he said off the prelim was, at the Worlds last year, I kind of ran conservative the last 800. I backed off, and then I just tried to snipe some people down and finish as high as possible. This one, and he's like, I'm not going to do that in Budapest. But it kind of looks like he might have done that on the first half of this last lap, because he allowed himself to fall back, and then he sniped everyone down the last 100. Did he address that at all?
Yeah, 100% he did. I said, well, what happened on the race? He's like, I was up there. I was in great position until the bell. I need to rewatch it. We should pull up the VPN and try to watch it, John. He's like, I got swarmed at the bell. I didn't respond right away. They swarmed me. And then I had a tough time trying to react. I thought about trying to go out in lane 2. Like, I was running wide. I think he said he was in lane 4 coming down the home stretch. Like,
he was wide, yeah.
He's like, I didn't respond right away. Then they swarmed me with the bell. And it was too late. Like, I was playing catch up at that point. So it's just a really cool story. It's like, he beat all 3 Ethiopians. Somebody here in the comments earlier saying, like, the Ethiopians need to get new coaches. Like, they should not all beat Luis, I don't think. And we said to Jakob, like, hey, were you surprised that none of the Ethiopians pushed the pace? And he said, well, kind of and kind of not. Because it was hot. Like, we kind of got used to it, but it was like, this was the hottest day, I think, in Budapest all summer. It was 95 degrees, probably like 87 at race time or something.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I wish I spoke the same language as Barahu Aragawi, because I would love to know, like, this is a guy who has no problem pushing the pace on the Diamond League circuit and trying to run the kick out of people. Kajelcha has done the same thing too. Neither of them did it in this race. Aragawi led a bunch, but he was not putting the hammer down like he did at the pre-classic last year, or like he did, which was it? Was it Lausanne or Oslo, where he was up front this year? And maybe that has something to do with the heat. Maybe it has something to do with he already ran the 10K. I don't know, but he didn't do it. And at that point, I'm just like, well, I'm sorry, Barahu Aragawi, this is not a race where you medal. This is not your skill set. So instead, we had Ingebrigtsen and Katia, the 215 guys, and we had Krop, who medaled last year for Kenya and came out to get another medal this year. So
yeah, we need to stop going off of times, rewarding the medals off of times. Like, Krop has shown it 2 years in a row. Griol has shown it 2 years in a row. Man, I mean, it's crazy. Like, but that's the level he's at. But also, John, I think you rerun this race, it's just sort of arbitrary. They give out 3 medals. The Griol beats Kajelcha, Gebriwat, Mohamed, Aragawi, Gressier. And then you got further back, Nordas and people like that. Luis, great run. But he's also changing. Like, he's a total inspiration. I got a text from a guy back home. A friend of mine lives in Texas. And he said, if you see the race, please have a video made of him telling, he's got a guy's name in here, telling him hello. He's from Guatemala and was cheering for him and make him so happy. I mean, this guy's like inspiring. That's the thing. Everyone at Worlds in some ways inspires other people. It's sort of trite to say, but
Keely Hodgkinson sounded like she was saying the same thing after the 800. She's like, us three running so well and battling each other and producing these great races. I know if I was a young 800 woman, I'd be inspired by watching them battle back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like as Robert said, there's only certain races you watch. So I'm back home, my daughter, hey, you got to watch this race. Maybe that inspires her to take up the sport or do better at whatever she's trying to do.
All right, well then, do we need to begin the inquest? Someone has started a thread on the message board saying RIP US distance running 1896 to 2023. And I was looking at the results. I mean, it depends. If you count the 800 as a distance event, the US won 1 bronze medal. If you don't count it as a distance event, the United States won 0 medals at the World Championships. The last time they won 0 in the I think Mo won the 800 last year in Eugene, but other than that, they got no distance medals in the 15, the 5K, the 10K, or the steeple, or the marathon. Second year in a row, no medals.
Why do we have an RIP? Why didn't we have the RIP last year? John,
Well,
it's hard.
No, but yeah, let me get to my point. It is hard, but I'm just going to read off the results from the 1500 to the steeple. Here are the Americans who made the finals and how they did. Men's 1500, Yardenagoose 5th, Cole Hawker 7th. Women's 1500, Corey McGee 10th. Men's 5K, Abdi Noor 12th, Paul Chelimo 15th. Women's 5K, Elise Cranny 9th, Alicia Monson 14th. Men's 10K, Woody Kincaid 11th, Sean McGordy 16th, Joe Klecker 20th. Women's 10K, Alicia Monson 5th, Elise Cranny 12th, Natasha Rogers 14th. Men's steeple, Kenneth Rooks 10th, Isaac Updike 16th. Women's steeple, Courtney Waymond 15th. So we had 2 athletes finish in the top 6, Nagoose and Monson. 2 more in the top 10, Hawker and Cranny in the 5K. That was it. This was not a good showing. I don't think we need to sugarcoat it. It wasn't good. It's hard to win these medals, especially some of these events are as loaded as they've ever been. I'm thinking women's 5K, absolutely stacked. Women's 1500 is strong. Men's 1500 is this is one of the deepest times ever for men's 1500 running.
I mean, we go back 2003, 2005. I guess that's a long time ago for some people. Were we getting any medals?
No, but
Okay.
I'm just saying this was not a great showing by the Americans all in all. And would you agree with that statement?
Most people underperformed. Actually, almost everybody underperformed a few places, I would say. Not everybody. Yardenagoose, one of the bigger disappointments in the sense he's 5th. Like, it's crazy, but there's very high.
But he still got 5th. That was tied for the
Yeah.
best finish. I would say Alicia Monson in the 10K, that was a great result. 5th against that field, that's very good.
Oh, that's very good.
Now, looking at everyone else, I mean, Kenneth Rooks getting 10th in the steeple. He made the final. That's decent, I'd say. Elise Cranny, given who she was up against in the 5K, I mean, she probably should have beaten Tanaka, but 9th, not a disaster. Corey McGee making the final and finishing 10th, that's fine. But I think we thought Nikki Hiltz could be up there, on the fringes of medal discussion. Most of these athletes will probably walk away saying, yeah, I wish I had finished higher. Oh, I mean, if you want to talk about 800, I will say we didn't talk about this at all. Raven Rogers ran the race of her season to get 4th place. That's a result she should be very proud of. And Nia Akins got 6th, running 157 PB. They both ran great in the final. They just happened to get beat by superior athletes. We're not really counting the 800 as a distance event here, but they both ran spectacular, and we're giving them credit.
It's sort of nuts. We just went through the whole 800. We did not discuss a 4th place by an American. Raven Rogers, she's a gamer. I guess it didn't happen last year in Eugene. I still don't know what happened that one, but every other time, she exceeds expectations.
Absolutely. Yeah. We didn't think she would get silver in 2019. She did. I mean, bronze in 2021, I wasn't totally shocked by, but she ran 156, which I didn't know she had in her. Then last year, a bad race for her, a bad year, and she got 6th in the World Championship final. And now this year, when she'd done very little to indicate she was in tip-top shape, she only runs 2 flat in the semis. I'm like, Nia Akins or Raven Rogers, you give me straight up in the final, I think I would have bet on Akins. But Rogers comes out and delivers. I mean, it's just super impressed. She's we throw this around, but she's got the heart of a champion. Goes back to our Oregon days with that 4x4.
Nia Aikens PB. Brooks Beast. You guys exceeded expectations. They only had 2 out. Oh no, they had Isaiah Harris was in here. He did a little worse than probably a little worse than you want, but otherwise, great job. And what Coach Danny Mackey's been going through this year, like, oh my God, like that sort of hasn't been talked about. We only really discovered the details this week, but it's amazing everyone can still stay focused and keep going. I mean, running's kind of trivial when we think about that, but we're going through the list here. Courtney Wayment. We also had the women's steeplechase today. Winfred Yavi, who was the best steepler in the world, I think, in 2021, right? And couldn't win the Olympics. Was that her?
No, it was Nora Gerudo, who's since been popped.
Never mind. Take it back.
No, Winfred Yavi was, if you had gone off last year's results, I mean, she was 4th last year. Makita Zabebe was the only one coming back. Because remember, the winner last year, Nora Gerudo, got popped for ABP. And the runner-up, Workua Getachew, I think, is widely assumed to be intersex. So after that, you had a Bebe of Ethiopia and you had Yavi. And, there's been no sort of clear and obvious number one in the world in the steeple this year. We did see, Jacqueline Chepkoech, the last meet before the World Championship, she runs that 8:57, and we're thinking, okay, is she the woman to beat? But she's also young. That's the thing. There are a lot of these women, her, Wanda McGuigan, Faith Cheritich, all quite young. Jacqueline Chepkoech, only 19, and she didn't have a good race tonight. She was 9th in 9:14. Yavi, meanwhile, had some decent results, hadn't done anything to show that she was, far and away favorite, but that's how it ended up on the last lap. She runs a PB of 8:54. She drops Beatrice Chepkoech, who somehow had, rediscovered her form this year. And
I spoke to her afterwards, John.
Gets the gold medal.
Kenyans can get injured too. She said, I've been dealing with injuries.
Well, wait.
Stress fracture, hamstring or something. I need to go back and listen to the interview. But since she's like, I've had injuries the last couple of years. This is the woman who ran 8:44 in 2018. That is so sick.
Well, all right. Here's my question about Beatrice Chepkoech. I didn't watch much of the race, but I did watch some of the water jumps. Multiple times in this race, she looked as if coming into the water jump, she was actually going to, you have to make a sharp turn to go on that flat coming into the water jump. She looked like she was going to run into like the high jump area. Like she starts going and she has to redirect herself to run straight to go over the water jump. This is the same woman who missed a water jump in the 2017 World Championship final, cost herself the gold medal in that race. And it's crazy to me. It's not like this water jump's in a weird spot. It's an outside water jump or anything. It's where most of the water jumps are in every Olympics or World Championships. And she had to keep kind of readjusting her stride just to hit the barrier. It was strange to me, Weldon. And I don't really understand how that's the case when you're that deep into your steeple career. I don't think it affected her all that much because she still got the silver medal, but it was just strange to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of crazy because she ran great. Yavi just trashed her the last lap, 8:54 to 8:58, 9 flat. I mean, this one went out hard. Courtney Wayman essentially said, like, it went hard. I thought I was ready to really do something, so I went with it. Well, they were going sub-9 pace, and I don't think she's ready for that. That's what we learned. Faded all the way back to 9:25. She's like, look, I'm obviously very disappointed with this, but I showed I can compete at this level, which I think is true.
Well, then, we needed Robert here tonight because 5th and 6th place. Obscure national record alert here. Alice Fino of France, 5th, 9:06:15, national record. 6th place, Maruša Mismaš Zrimsek of Slovenia, 9:06:37, national record. Rojo would have been all over them in the mix zone.
Wow.
We didn't get those exclusives. And then back in 11th place, what a night for India. Men's 4x4 final, gold medal in the javelin, and then national record in the Indian women's steeplechase, Parul Chowdhury, 9:15:31. It's kind of crazy that France, Slovenia, Albania, and India all had runners finish ahead of the top American in this race.
Well, I think there's two things to take away from this. One, there's still not a lot of depth in this race. I mean, 8:54 makes her the fourth fastest all time. But I think we've seen the Americans excelling well at this, and some of them don't have like great like 3K credentials or something like that. They're medalists. So I think the rest of the world's sort of catching up. But I saw Fino in there, John. I was like, what is she here? Like, I didn't know what she ran. People were interviewing her. Sorry, Rojo. But I don't know. I don't think we need to talk too much more about this steeplechase.
I think we've already given it too much attention. This was the least interesting distance final of the whole meet. So let's move on.
Okay, a couple more things. One, earlier we were talking about a thing, Mo. Some people are speculating that, I'll sort of trust this, that she's broken up with her boyfriend, Brandon Miller, that they're no longer together, that their social media accounts have been purged. So that's got to be tough. You move to LA with, one of the, I think there's some family, but then it's going to be essentially, me and my boyfriend, we're going to make it work. And then one of the key people who's kind of supposed to be in your life is no longer in it. Not easy. You're 30 years old or 19 years old. So, it's not a divorce, but when you're 21 years old, breakups can be pretty hard.
Yeah. And this gets me back to something Chris and Robert were talking about when they were on the show. Like, why wasn't anyone asking Ingebrigtsen about his dad and that sort of thing? I'm sure he has been asked in Norwegian media, and he's made it fairly clear he doesn't want to talk about that. And I think if we were to ask him, he would say he doesn't want to talk about it. He was asked in Belgrade, like very shortly after the split was announced in the winter of 2022. People asked him, and he didn't really want to talk about it at all. And I get that. That's a family private matter, and it's relevant to track and field because Gert was his coach. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to air my family's dirty laundry in front of the world's media. I get why they want to keep it private. He doesn't owe us an explanation, but is it a source of stress for him? I would imagine it probably was, but that there's a reason why Gert didn't get a credential from the Norwegian Athletics Federation, but I totally understand why he wouldn't want to expand on it in front of the cameras.
Yeah. And the Noah Lyles, Kevin Lyles, same thing. At some point, though, I think, and there isn't sort of game the media play, you don't want to get completely cut off. So you sort of, which questions might they answer? Then you have responsibilities for certain questions. But it's difficult. I think we should have asked him about Nordas. Hey, how do you feel about Nordas? You have another guy. He's done really well here. And just leave it. You don't have to say he's coached by your dad. You could. I guess you could even mention he's coached by the dad, but just see what he says. But it was interesting because we didn't talk to Nordas today, but after the 15, we're like, hey, what did Jakob tell you? I mean, this is the race where they went silver, bronze. I mean, he was 0.03 behind Jakob in that race, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And he's like, well, Jakob said congratulations on the bronze, like acknowledged him. And he's like, I felt glad he acknowledged me. I mean, it's very frosty between the two. So these athletes, we want them to be authentic. What's real? It's crazy. Some people don't like the celebrating. I love it. Like, so is that an act? I don't know. He's enjoying the moment. Like, it depends on how you want to say it. Is Bolt when he's doing the pistols and whatnot? Is that fake? Like, what? I don't know. I love people. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan. Butch Johnson used to do the Super Bowl. What's it called? The touchdown shake or something. John, you know who Butch Johnson is?
Butch Johnson?
Yeah, it's great. He's one of the first guys to celebrate before they outlawed celebrating.
How old is this guy? I haven't heard of this
legendary.
guy. What year? I mean, I know he's got to be pretty old if he was part of a winning Cowboys team, that was in a Super Bowl or something.
1982 or something.
Okay, well, I guess they didn't make the Super Bowl either. No, it was one of the best, most fun moments of the night. Mary Marar dancing after crossing the finish line. Well, this woman gets, tactical execution of the race probably gets like a C-. Actual performance gets an A, and the celebration A+. Because not only did she jump across the finish line, there are some amazing photos. That's like a great move to do. Ben Flanagan has perfected it on the roads. That's his winning celebration. Is he jumps up to break the tape in road races. We don't see it that much on the track, but we need to because that was really fun. And then after that,
and that was my coolest. She literally jumped across the finish line.
She looks like awesome. She's flying in these photos. It's really cool. And then after that, she danced when she won the Commonwealth Games last year. She danced again this year. It was really fun. She had, it was really cool to see. Flashed some personality. The other thing I meant to make this point when I was talking about Mary Marar and like kind of lack of tactical acumen. Look, we say, oh, that Commonwealth Games win, that was wild. She went from first to last to first. It was also dumb as hell. Like, that's a terrible, like, if you're trying to win the race, there is no race plan that says you should go first to last to first. That's not in the playbook. You win in spite of that strategy. And I think she kind of did that again tonight. But again, when you're the best in the field, sometimes it doesn't matter.
Of course, we're talking about Jakob a lot. I want to get to this comment here. Jakob, Thomas Lester in the comments. You say all these splits are usually due to one major factor, money. What splits are you talking about? Because I don't think I don't know, type which splits you're talking about.
Splits?
Like breakups or something.
But
I'm not sure. I'm just curious what you're saying because usually I like your points. But with Jakob, I want to play the short clip. It's 7 seconds. How are you going to celebrate?
Will you celebrate this title? You see, you just... The reason I asked this question, Weldon, is we talked to him for 10 minutes, and he did not seem like someone who had just become a world champion. Most people have a smile plastered across their face. They're fairly animated. And Jakob, after this performance, was not how he was. He was sullen. Is that a fair way to describe it? He answered all our questions. I appreciate him for going in front of us, and he was still his thoughtful, candid self, and I appreciated that. But he wasn't sort of being all like, "This is awesome! I'm the world champion. I got redemption." He was disappointed because he knew he was capable of giving more at this meet if he was 100% healthy. So, what did you make of it?
He's like the thing Mo on the men's side. He's got high expectations, John. He lost his baby. We said, are you better at the 5K or 15? He's like, the same answer as last year. He's like, I'm a better 5K runner. That's not the one I want, essentially. So he's upset he won the 15. He can't get it back. There's some interesting comments here saying that Ollie Hoare and Jordy Beamish on the Coffee Club podcast today were critical of Jakob's attitude this week. Usually they're fans. Jakob also said, I thought something interesting today. They're like, well, what about, do you want to get revenge versus Josh Kerr? Because we're asking him, people are asking, are you going to still go for the 2K world record? If people want to criticize something, I thought Jakob's been fine. He's just like, I'm sick, I would win. I think it's true, probably. Now, maybe he should praise Josh Kerr, but he said something like Josh is the winner. Like he didn't.
No. But this today, was very interesting today.
I thought he slighted Josh Kerr.
He multiple times he referred to him as the next guy. He was basically like, he's the guy who would have won if I wasn't in the final. Well, actually, Jakob was in the final, and Josh Kerr is the guy who won the race. And I don't want to. I get what he's saying. He's saying the same thing he thought last year, that he is the best athlete, and he was still beaten. And this case, last year is because he thought he messed up tactically. This year, it's because he says he's not 100% healthy. But referring to the guy who beat you and won the world championship as the next guy, if I was Josh Kerr, I think I would be insulted by that. I know what Jakob meant, and Jakob thinks when he's the best, he should never lose. When he's at his best, he should never lose, and he doesn't think he was at his best at this meet. But I do think just calling the world champion in the men's 1,500 meters as just referring to him as the next guy, I think that is a bit insulting.
That was insulting today. I'm surprised. I can't believe we didn't bring that up earlier. We should have played that clip. But hey, there's always more Jakob. He always delivers. There's more we can talk about. All right, John, the show, well, we've been cut off. We're not sure how long. We started at 7:03. So we're an hour 10. We got to wind this thing up so I can catch my train on zero sleep. But the meet ended. We were critics. We said they should not have the 4x4s on the final day because it's usually pretty boring. The U.S. usually cleans everyone's clock. Well, the U.S. woman got DQ'd yesterday, and you couldn't come up with a better way to end this meet. The Dutch, with Femke Bol on the anchor, it looked like one of those like college 4x4s where she has no chance, and she wins it at the line to book in the meet. Whereas on day one, she got the baton in the lead and gave it up. No one expected that. She fell face flat.
Let's be fair to the baton. The baton crossed the finish line before the United States in that race. It's just that Femke Bol was no longer attached to it.
See, they should change the rules. It should be the first baton across the finish line. So
did we just stop people? The whole decision is when do you throw the baton across the finish line?
Our sport's kind of boring. I'm just saying. If they want to have the 4x4 last, that's what they need.
Yeah. Now, I wish I could tell you. I didn't go back and hand time this. I was assuming I'm like, oh, I'll just tell you how amazing Femke Bol was on the last lap because the results will have her split. Guess what? They don't. People, it's 2023. If flash results can give me the split for every leg of the 4x4 at NCAAs immediately, and every lap of every race immediately, we should be able to have the splits for the World Championship final in the 4x4 online within 3 hours of the race. And it's been a tough week for the World Athletics website. Clearly, they underestimated the amount of traffic they were going to be getting. That's a good sign, kind of, but also like not great when this is the one meet where really everyone cares about this sport and outside of the Olympics, and you can't get the results up there.
Everything associated with the meet in Hungary, or maybe the 2-second TV delay that that Lee Duffy was broadcasting on. I don't want to blame the Hungarians for that. Was that fixed today? Can someone say in the comments? I mean, it's unbelievable. We got deep into NBC today. There is no way NBC did not know of this today. It still happened yesterday. I don't know if it was fixed today or not. But where was it going, John? Oh, everything with the meet. Alphonse Jacques, who is associated with the... Is he with the Ostrava meet?
Yeah, Ostrava Golden Spike.
Which is a great meet. He's a Slovakian television commentator now. He's been to all of these things. He's like, this is the best worlds ever. He's like outside of the track. Like everything. They had a press conference today, and usually someone shows up. We show up to talk to Seb Coe because there's some sort of controversy. John and I are like, there's no point to go. Like logistically, this thing went great. My only issue was like the results, but I think that's a World Athletics issue, not a Budapest issue. So real quickly, John, people want us to talk about the marathon. Well, if you watched the marathon, you watched more of it than I did. I was sleeping through this one. John woke up, saw the back half of it, which is what we call the pivotal half of the marathon. And Victor Kiplagat, who won the Commonwealth Games last year, took the win. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to say about this race. Well, then, I guess the interesting thing was two of the main contenders fell in the second half of this race. Stephen Kieser of Uganda and the Israeli athlete who ended up getting the bronze medal at the very end. That was the most interesting thing, was this battle for bronze, which belonged to, well, initially it was Tamarat Tola, and then it ended up being
Luel Gebrselassie.
Luel Gebrselassie. Sorry, battle for silver. Gebrselassie was in second, and Teferi closed like a demon. I mean, he was ripping. Someone said he ran like his last 230 seconds or something. I don't know. It was nuts. He was closing really, really well. So Kiplagat, him and Gebrselassie broke away. He split it open against the two of them, and then it was a case of, Kiplagat was basically untouchable the last 10K loop. But Teferi made this huge close, and then the fourth placer, Tabelo Ramakongwana of Lesotho, 209.57 personal best, coached by James McCurdy of McCurdy Trained in Flagstaff. I mean, that's crazy. Wild story.
This is some online coach. I mean, I've seen some stuff on his Instagram, but he's not like that well known. He happened to be at Worlds, like was talking to this guy. We need to do something on this story. Just met him and it's like, do you have a good coach? And he's like, no. He's like, I'll start coaching you. Just shows how much untapped talent there is in the world, John. So his previous bests, I mean, this guy has like nothing. 101 for the half. He ran 2:12 last year in Eugene, 2:09.57.
2:10 in Cape Town in 2021. So that was his previous PB. But yeah, fourth in the world. I don't think I would have predicted that. It was interesting. Tamarat Tola, who was signed up for the Sydney Marathon on September 17th, he was up there for a while and basically did what we saw in the women's race yesterday. Once he realized the medal was no longer a possibility, he dropped out. So my prediction contest scores took a hit on this one. Well, I put Chalu Deso of Ethiopia for the win, the guy who won Tokyo. He didn't even start the race, so that was points off the board right there. But I did think Kiplanga, because he won the Commonwealth Games last year, it's like, all right, he's kind of got the resume of someone who might win a hot weather marathon, and indeed he did. So 10 years after Steven Kiprotich won in Moscow, Victor Kiplanga is your world champion. The Americans, we have both agreed, I think Zach Panning, very solid run for him in 13th place. He's a 209 guy, former D2 star at Grand Valley State, I believe, now with Hampton Brooks, and he's run 209. He runs 2:11:21 for 13th in this heat. I think he probably his own trials dark horse status at this point, Weldon. Especially, this counts more than most because it's a world championship marathon in the heat, and Orlando could be quite hot. So he's shown he can deliver a solid result in warm weather. I think you got to be pretty pleased with the result if you're Zach Panning.
Yeah, he ran 2:15 his marathon debut in 2021. Make sure that was his actual debut. Then last year, drops all the way down to 2:09. That was the second marathon, so nothing in between. And now this performance in the heat, and he went sub 28 in 10K this year. So I think he's a dark horse. Well, who knows, John? I guess we got who are non-dark horses. Without Rupp, it's a different ballgame.
Connor Mance, Scott Fauble. I mean, Alcona Quebec kind of he got beat today. Those two, I would say, definitely the non-dark horses. Rupp, kind of a wild card, but not a dark horse. We TBD what he does in Chicago. Leonard Correa is going to be up there usually. So yeah, Panning moving. You want to call him a dark horse. You want to call him fringe contender. I don't know what you want to say, but
people are asking him to be hotter at 9 a.m. at 9 p.m. than 9 a.m. No, I don't know. The temperature might be hotter, but it's less.
The sun is a big thing too. When you're running at 9 a.m., you're in the sunlight. 9 p.m., the sun is set. That's a big difference, and that probably contributes to that wet bulb temperature index that they're always talking about and going off of these metrics. So that's why they moved it from 11 a.m. for the women's 5K prelims to 7 p.m. because the sun was no longer penetrating the stadium. It was setting, and the track was sort of in shadow. So, all right, well, we'll have more on this next week when we do our regular pod. We'll sort of give our final thoughts on Worlds. But as we prepare to sign off on Sunday night, anything else you want to say? Anything that strikes you from the 2023 World Championships?
Thank you, Jakob. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, Athing. Thank you for showing up. That's all we need. We need the stars of the sport. People are talking about if they have the right attitude or whatnot. I could care less. I want them competing. They're both interesting people to talk to. People love them. We needed that women's 800 delivered today. We can always talk about Jakob in the 1500. We talked about that race for a year. We're already talking about Jakob sliding Josh Kerr today. And John heads off to Zurich. Thursday, Zurich Weltklasse meet. Usually the best one-day track meet in the world.
I feel kind of bummed that Weltklasse this year, it's on August 31st, 4 days after Worlds. We're just not like Noah Lyles was talking, I'm going to be in Zurich. I'll try to run fast. I'm like, I know you'll try, Noah, but you've had a heavy workload. I just find it's going to be tough for him to challenge really a personal best after all those races in Budapest. Same with a lot of these other athletes. Jakob was signed up for the 15. We don't know if he'll do it. We're supposed to get Warholm, Benjamin, Dos Santos in the 400 hurdles. I would have to expect Rai Benjamin's going to pull out of that one. I think Mo, we know she's not going to be there. I know we'll have a lot of the top athletes, but the nice thing about the Weltklasse in the previous years is it would either be the Diamond League final or it'd be late in the season and people would be ready to go. I guess sometimes Susie Favor-Hamilton, the Olympics in 2000 were too close to the Weltklasse, so she had to save herself for Zurich. But yeah, ideally you do not want one of the best single-day meets in the world just 4 days after the World Championships conclude. But I'm still excited to be there.
Yeah, I wonder why Worlds is so late this year. And also, there's a Chinese Diamond League a couple days later, so the fields are sort of split. Like the 100 guys are going to China because they're getting paid.
You know who we're going to get, though? Who we haven't seen for quite a while?
Who didn't make the U.S. team?
Yeah.
In the 100?
Pretty famous runner, distance runner, set a bunch of American records last year.
Who?
Grant Fisher. Making his comeback. That's the word on the street is Grant Fisher is targeting Zurich and maybe running the men's 5,000 there. So that'll be a fun storyline to follow.
It will be. And John, I love the World. I was only here for half the time. You're the hardest working journalist in track and field. I got thick. It's not if a Grant Wall happens to me on the way back. Keep being fans, people. We do this for you. We really do. We believe fans should be fans. You guys should allowed to cheer, express your opinions. We try to ask the questions you want to ask. And no one does it better than John. So, John, thank you for your work. I told John we were talking to the Dutch team and we said, how are you going to celebrate? And they said, do you want the PC answer? That they didn't use this word because we're not Americans, or the real answer, real answer. She's like, I'm going to go drinking. This wasn't Femke. This was
Lieke Klaver. She's the only other Dutch 4x4 runner I know.
That was her. So, yeah. And then I said, oh, tonight or when you get back to Netherlands? And she's like, both. And I was like, John, if somehow you can get on their drinking caravan, go ahead. You don't have to work. But John said, no, I have an obligation. To Let's Run Nation. So thank you for everyone who listened, all the Supporters Club members. We really do this for the Supporter Club members. Our focus, we do this live shows, but our focus really is for the podcast. If you like this content, you'll love our podcast even more. All of these coming out of the podcast, only to Supporters Club members. You have to pay for that, yes, but you can save on running shoes 20%. So every shoe you buy, you can save $30. So you get a free t-shirt if you join for a year. So this membership really pays for itself if you buy a couple of shoes a year. So join today, support letsrun.com.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
I just want to say
Rojo. Thank you, intern Alex, behind the scenes, doing a lot this week.
Yeah, this is not an easy meet to cover. It's long nights. It's long hours at the track. There's a lot of grunt work that goes into it, but it's also a total privilege. You get to see some really cool stuff. I have one of the coolest jobs in the world. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's crazy that so many people care what we have to say about track and field, but we try to make it worth your while. And I'm looking forward to sleeping once I eventually get back to the United States. But, well, we still got some good stuff coming up. We got Zurich. We got Brussels. We got the Diamond League final in the United States. We'll be out there, boots on the ground coverage for that one.
When is that one, John? I'm definitely not going to that.
September 16th and 17th.
People need to go because I'm really worried about the attendance for this one.
I mean, yeah, it is honestly, it would be totally shameful if they can't sell that thing out. They used to sell the pre-classic out at the old Hayward Field. If you can't sell it out when it's a Diamond League final, I mean, that's embarrassing. But that we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully we'll see some of you guys there in Eugene. Hopefully, I've heard rumors the Wild Duck may be reopened by that point. So
come back?
That's what I've been told.
I don't know. The Supporters Club members also get free drinks when we have meetups. So some of you really, this thing might pay for itself.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Sunday night, final night in Budapest. This was a blast. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. And we will be back next week with the regular podcast with our final thoughts on Worlds and a look ahead to the rest of the track season.